Welcome to Marriage by Design. Now, many of you, I guess, will already be planning your wedding day. I got married 6 years ago, and to be honest, really enjoyed planning our wedding, but was a little bit surprised that it also took so much skill and efforts. And the same is true of marriage. Marriage by Design gives you one of those rare opportunities to take some time out and chat about your future married life together. Each marriage is, of course, different, and the decision to get married marks a new stage in our lives. It's about two unique individuals beginning a new life together. It's a little bit like building a house. It's new, it's got lots of potential, and as a couple, you'll have the chance to plan exactly what it's going to be like. So, just imagine for a moment that you and your fiancé are going to build a new house for your married life together. Planning for your marriage is like designing, building, and decorating that house. You'll have different ideas of what it's going to look like, what will work best, which wallpaper will look good in the front lounge, and because of this, the end result will be much more interesting and more creative. It also means that you'll need to negotiate with each other and sometimes make those compromises to ensure everything goes to plan. Planning your wedding day can be really fun and an important part of getting married, but spending your time only looking at the wedding day is a little bit like spending all your time and all your energy designing the front door of the house and never thinking about what's going inside. Every marriage is going to have its ups and downs, but there are skills we can learn and habits we can put in place that will help us build strong foundations for our life together. Taking time out to discuss some of these things, even for just a few hours, can help make a marriage stronger and even more fulfilling. So, congratulations, not only on your engagement, but also for choosing to look beyond your wedding day and think about your future life together. Now, it's important to highlight at this point, this is not a compatibility test, just an opportunity for you as a couple to discuss and reflect on some of the key aspects of your future marriage together. We're going to look at some of the things that can help build a great relationship and make your marriage the very best it can be. In the first session, you'll have the chance to discuss what your hopes and dreams are for your marriage. Then we'll look at the importance of friendship. The third session looks at how we communicate, and in the fourth, we'll discuss the best ways of resolving conflict when it arises. Finally, we'll look at the importance of commitment in marriage. Now, as a couple, you'll have loads of chances to discuss the different topics. At these points, simply pause the DVD and spend some time on the activities in the handbook. So, let's get started with a quick activity.
Hi, my name's Mark.
And I'm Lindsay, and we've been married for over 25 years.
When building a house, the first thing you do is draw up the plans. Imagine that you had to draw a blueprint for your marriage, the plan of what it would look like. You'd all have different ideas about what a blueprint would contain because you'd all have different ideas about what a good marriage looks like.
Let's see what some people said when we asked what marriage means to them.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Well, let's see. I think. What am I going to say?
Go on, you answer that one.
The idea of marriage.
A partnership between two people for life.
To me, marriage means partnership.
Marriage means having a good partner and a good children as well, and progressing in life, basically. That's what marriage means to me.
If two people love each other, I think it's better to get married and be settled and secure.
I guess it's a couple coming together and spending a long time together, and they love each other. It's the idea of it, I suppose.
I don't know, I haven't actually thought of it, to be honest.
Being committed to someone and wanting to spend the rest of your life with them.
Wanted to make that person happy. I suppose it's going to be the one, isn't it? Yeah, I'll go with that.
My parents have been married for a long time, so it's a marvellous thing for those that like it.
Never get married. Unless you can be honest to your woman. Then you can get married, but otherwise from that, don't.
I'm not really that bothered, like, I don't know, I get why people want to get married, but I'm not bothered if I didn't or if I did.
I always worry that sort of marriage these days kind of has a time limit on it, because you sort of see a lot of people getting divorced.
I'm not very positive about marriage. Parents broke up, the classic.
You often see people splitting up after getting married. So I'm not really keen on marriage, really. It doesn't mean that much except signing a piece of paper.
It's a contract.
Realistic a bit happening these days. It's quite slim, isn't it? But I'd love to get married.
You know each other, the best and the worst.
It might not always be smooth, it might not always be easy, but it's a way of working things out together as a partnership.
Sticking together through thick or thin.
Two people promising to take care of each other for the rest of their lives.
I suppose a bond between two people and then creating a family, really, for
Friendship.
us.
Marriage means to you is taking care of each other's. Yeah.
Great friends that do everything together.
Yeah, it's all about friendship and companionship.
It means the world to me. It's everything.
I think marriage is the most beautiful relationship a man and a woman can have between two people.
As we've just seen, the term marriage means different things to different people. But the one thing that every engaged couple has in common is that they're starting out on a new stage of their lives. Some of you may be expecting your life to be completely different when you're married, and some of you may be thinking it will stay much the same as it is now.
For us, it was very different. When we got married, we were setting up a home together in a new area, away from family and friends, so it felt as though everything changed. But even if the daily routines of your life don't actually change very much after you're married, it will be different, because this is a new stage in your relationship. You know, research suggests that marriage is good for your health, your family, and even your bank balance. For example, you might be interested to know that when you're married, you're likely to live longer than someone who isn't. You're likely to earn more, and unbelievably, you're less likely to catch the flu.
But we guess you had other reasons for deciding to get married. So let's focus on you as a couple instead. Why have you chosen to get married? Why did you decide to take this new step together? We're going to give you a few minutes to think about this now.
Thinking about what marriage means to us can often highlight some of the hopes, dreams and expectations we may have for married life. For example, we might decide that we want to get married because it seems like the right time to start a family. So our hopes and expectations for marriage are that we will also be parents.
Or if we already have children, we may want to formalise our commitment to each other because we hope it'll have a positive impact on our children.
We may have spent a lot of time thinking and dreaming about what married life will be like. Or we may have not really given it a lot of thought at all. But most of us, even if we don't realise it, have our own expectations of what marriage will be like. And these expectations can be influenced by any number of things, but are often shaped by our own personal values and prior experience, particularly the homes that we grew up in.
When it came to money, for example, I imagined, perhaps naively, that we would keep our money separate and just jointly pay for our mortgage and bills, whereas Mark expected us to pool everything.
And I thought it was fine to borrow money if we couldn't afford something we really wanted or needed, but Lindsay certainly didn't.
We had to work through this, and we've ended up pooling our money and trying only to buy what we can afford.
We all move through life gaining experiences and forming assumptions about marriage. This could be memories of our parents' marriage or perhaps of our own previous relationships. For good or bad, past experiences do have an effect on us, but we can choose how we allow them to shape our marriage. It's a bit like moving into a new house. You need to sort through your stuff and decide what to take with you and what to get rid of, and it's far easier to do it beforehand than it is later on.
In the same way, we can choose which assumptions and expectations we bring into our marriage, keeping the good ones and leaving behind the things that might clutter or spoil it. Equally, you may have your own ideas about who's going to be responsible for doing what around the house, or who might do most of the childcare. These are likely to be influenced by how it was done when you were growing up, and whether or not you think that that worked well. Whatever your history together so far, since getting married is a new chapter with a new beginning, it's a good time to discuss the way you choose to divide out responsibilities. Being married involves working as a team, complementing one another and playing to our strengths.
It doesn't necessarily matter who does what, or whether it's split 50-50, as long as we're both willing to take responsibility and are both happy with the amount that we each do.
Another area to look at is our values, our beliefs about what's important in life. They can be cultural or personal, and they help to shape our behaviour and the choices we make. For some people, career advancement could be really important, while for others it might be something like environmental awareness, helping in the local community, or a religious faith.
We all bring our own set of values into our marriages, and we need to put these together into our marriage blueprint. These combined values inform our priorities as a couple and ultimately influence the vision we have for our lives together. Our values are especially important when it comes to raising children, and this is something you'll have an opportunity to think about later on. Having a very different set of values from our partner doesn't mean that we shouldn't get married, just that we may need to work through them together so that we understand where we're both coming from.
When we first got together, we obviously we lived in what was common between us. Yeah. So we sort of used to do things together. We used to like go cinema, we used to go parties and all that type of stuff. And I was actually quite Western, so it didn't actually make much of a difference. But then when we got married and we pulled in our sort of family backgrounds, our family traditions, that's when we began to hit sort of tensions, didn't we? I think my background was quite traditional in terms of a West Indian background. It was quite religious. And both my parents worked a lot. My older sister helped to look after us. My mum naturally was very hospitable. We had people in and out of our house for a lot of my sort of upbringing. We didn't really use diaries or things like that. People would just come and go, and there was sort of quite open access, which was different for you, I think.
It was a massive difference, actually, wasn't it? Our backgrounds. My mum didn't work, but it wasn't sort of the working issue, it was how the home ran. Because my mum was ordered, you know, when we were going out, she used to like to know the day before if I was coming tea for the next day. But his mum, he could turn up with 5, 6 friends and there'd be enough food, because they didn't rice, they'd just share around. And so that was quite a tension in our marriage, first of all, because he was forever wanting to invite people at the drop of the hat, and I'm like, no, I've not got enough food.
My family would turn up to our house at any point, yeah? There wouldn't be notice. We didn't have, it wasn't a diary thing. My dad would expect to be able to phone at 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. and it wouldn't be a problem. My mum would turn up with bread and cake and stuff. You struggled with that a little bit.
There seemed to be, I grew up with more sort of unspoken boundaries, I would say, whereas there seemed to be no boundaries in your family. There seemed to be. There wasn't any. There seemed to be. And I remember that one night when it was late and we'd gone to bed, so we heard this knock on the door and I'm thinking, gosh, who's that, you know? But anyway, we didn't answer it because we were in bed. And our bedroom window was on the side. And then there was this tapping on the window. I'm like, what's going on? I'm thinking something serious is happening. He gets out, opens the door, and it's his mum coming with a bit of cake. I'm like, you know, for my family, if the lights were off, the curtains were drawn, you know, you wouldn't even go and knock on the door.
One of the things that we had to do, which was a bit of a challenge, but we got there in the end, was to compromise in terms of, say, when my dad would call and things like that. And that took some educating and talking to him, and it took us talking to get to a place where we could find a happy medium where my dad wouldn't be, if you like, offended if I didn't answer the phone or something like that, and we had to sort of work through that one. I mean, if I'm thinking about people who are in a sort of similar situation where maybe they've got married and they're from different backgrounds, I think the appreciation of the other culture is vital, and you don't need to understand everything about it. You just need to accept that that's a valid way of being.
Don't you find, though, understanding brings about appreciation, though? Because it wasn't until I understood some stuff that I appreciated it. Yeah. So, for example, timekeeping, that was a massive value in my household. If you were late, you were being disrespectful and rude. Whereas his family were always late, basically, weren't they? And still are, some of them. But I think what I learnt there was they valued people a lot more than time. And so if they'd seen a friend and they were chatting, you know, they weren't being lazy and disrespectful and rude, but just not bothering to turn up. They were engaged in something they considered important. Whereas I think from my background, you know, you would cut off everything. I've got to be there to, you know, see you later. And so understanding that helped me view it from a different perspective, which meant I was less judgmental.
I think also talking helps, and and also the commitment to the relationship, which means that you will work through those things and that those things don't become deal breakers. That helps.
Agreeing what's important for us at the outset of our marriage will help us to make good choices together now and in the future.
We're going to give you a chance now to look at some of the expectations that you might have for your married life together, which will be influenced, of course, by your values.
We hope you found what we've covered helpful. Remember, there are no wrong answers in any of the activities, and every relationship is different.
So please don't be surprised if you found that there are things that you don't agree on as a couple, or things you haven't had the opportunity to talk about before now.
Taking some time out to think about your future is really worthwhile. It will strengthen your relationship and help to make your marriage all you hope it will be.